Whispers from Below, a horror podcast by Justin W. Geis. Scary stories, both real and fake. Hello, listeners. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 3 of Whispers from Below, a podcast by a madman for madmen. I'm your resident psychopath, Justin W. Geis, and today's topic of discussion is dark Pokédex entries. So I know that I talked about this in a previous episode, that I was thinking about doing an episode about this, and I thought maybe not do it so soon. You're so excited about it, maybe hold out, make it something to look forward to, but I just couldn't resist. I had to start doing it right away. People who know me know that I'm a huge dork. My whole household grew up playing Pokemon. Like, it was part of our lives for so long. And I didn't realize until I was older that a lot of the Pokédex entries are really suspect. This is an episode that's going to be a lot better for younger listeners. Not like last time. No murder. No gruesome topics of any kind. More of just, this is supposed to be a children's game. And these are things that are said that are canonical, like in the world, that I just think are a little wild for a children's game. So let's jump right in. I'm kind of going to structure it by saying the Pokemon, the number, the type, all sorts of things like that. And then we'll talk about the Pokédex entry. I do have quite a few, but there are so many more that I did not get to. So if you guys are a fan of this episode, we could maybe do a part 2 either later in the season or in a season 2. Please let me know at the end of the podcast what you guys think. So let's jump right in. First Pokemon I want to talk about is Sableye. Sableye is a Generation 3 Pokemon. It is number 302 in the Pokédex. It is a dark ghost type, and its category is just darkness. It has no evolutions, although I think it has a mega evolution in the later generations, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the Pokédex entry reads as follows. Sableye lead quiet lives deep inside caverns. They are feared, however, because these Pokemon are thought to steal the spirits of people when their eyes burn with a sinister glow in the darkness. What? Like, I really want to break that down. They steal spirits of people when they look at you. Now, Sableye are these cute little purple dudes. They've got these blue gems for eyes. I'm going to give a little bit of a descriptor for the Pokemon, but I'm not an artist, and I'm not a huge purveyor of Pokemon, so my descriptors might be a little suspect. So if you are really curious about what they look like or how certain things work, feel free to Google the Pokemon. But Sableye is this little purple dude. He kind of looks like a gremlin or like a goblin with some gems on him. And his eyes are just 2 blue gems. So those gems burn in the dark of a cavern, and then your soul gets stolen. Like, that's not something you would expect to be in a children's game, right? They get worse. The next Pokemon we're going to talk about is Shuppet. Shuppet is a ghost Pokemon. It is a Generation 3 Pokemon, number 353. It is a puppet Pokemon, and it evolves into Banette, who is actually our next Pokemon that we're going to talk about, but we'll get to that. Shuppet's entry is, Shuppet grows by feeding on dark emotions, such as vengefulness and envy, in the hearts of people. It roams through the cities in search of grudges that taint people. So this Pokemon just like roams around through a city and then just like shows up when you're mad at someone. It kind of looks like a little sock puppet, or like if you took like a tissue and kind of pulled the top into a point, but make that purple and then give it eyes. That's kind of what Shuppet looks like. He just looks like a used tissue. But he just feeds on really dark emotions of people. So if you're ever mad, Shuppet will show up. The next Pokemon we're going to talk about, as I mentioned before, is Banette. Banette is number 354. It is a Generation 3 Pokemon. It is Ghost type, and it is a Marionette. It does not have an evolution except for Shuppet that came before. This Pokédex entry is one of my favorites. I think it's really creepy and disturbing. It says, Banette generates energy for laying strong curses by sticking pins into its own body. This Pokemon was originally a pitiful plush doll that was thrown away. So I really want us to process that information. So this Pokemon, who Banette kind of looks like, I mean, it looks like what the description says. It looks like a little push pin doll, like a plush doll, with a link hat on the back, but it's all gray. And then its mouth is like a zipper with these red eyes. It's horrifying, number one. Like if you look up a picture of Banette, it will haunt you a little bit. It sticks pins in itself. Number one, where is it getting these magical pins? Does it produce them? Does it find them? Does it make them? How does it do that? And then it gets vengeful curses by sticking pins in itself. That's so creepy. What is happening over in Japan that causes this to be a thing? This just seems far too dark to be in a children's game. The next one isn't too terrible. The next Pokemon is Duskull. He is number 355. He is a Generation 3 Pokemon as well. He is a ghost Pokemon. His category is Requiem. Doesn't really give much of a description. He does evolve into Dusclops and Dusknoir, who are not in this episode, but they do have some pretty creepy Pokédex entries. But Duskull's stuck out to me. It says, Duskull can pass through any wall no matter how thick it may be. Once this Pokemon chooses a target, it will doggedly pursue the intended victim until the break of dawn. I don't like the word victim when you're talking about a Pokemon. I just don't think victim should be a word that's used. It just has a really dark context to it that makes it all seem a little too adult. Duskull is just kind of this little, he's like if a Grim Reaper was an old man. I think that's the best way I can describe it. He's got these glowing red eyes and kind of a skull mask on a gray sheet. He's honestly pretty cute looking. I would get a plush of him on my wall, for sure. My boyfriend and I have all these shelves put on our wall where we keep nerdy stuff. He has all of his Batman Funko Pops up there, and we're making a Tim Burton wall for all of my Funkos. And I would definitely put a plush of Duskull up there. I think he's super cute, but he just chases you until the break of dawn. But what happens when he catches you, they don't talk about, and that makes me nervous because I feel that's something I would want to know. What does he do if he catches you? Do I need to avoid him, or am I going to be okay? Anyway, something to think about. So our next Pokemon is one of my favorite Pokemon. His name is Drifloon. It's number 425, and he is a Generation 4 Pokemon, so we're moving up now. He is a Ghost Flying type, and his type is Balloon. He evolves into Drifblim, who's just a big blimp. But Drifloon kind of has this little cotton candy white hair. He's just a big purple balloon with little hearts for hands and a big yellow X on his face. He's really cute. He's adorable. And I thought he was super duper cute until I read this entry, which says, these Pokemon are called the signpost for wandering spirits. Children holding them sometimes vanish. What? So this Pokemon just steals kids. That seems like something that should have been avoided. We're in Generation 4. You think that if this Pokemon just sprouted up and was stealing kids, that somebody would do something about it? Are there Pokemon activists that won't let a species of Pokemon that's trying to remove humankind get removed? I feel Drifloon needs to be taken care of. That seems far too much. The next Pokemon is Gliscor. It is number 472. It is a Generation 4 Pokemon. He is a ground flying type, and his category really got me. I laughed and then was that's a really scary thought. It is Fang Scorpion. That just... Ugh. I really hate bugs. I hate insects. They are one of my least favorite things in the entire world. Look, I love me some moths and butterflies from afar. I love the idea of certain insects being really beautiful. Like I remember when I was camping with my family once, we saw a Luna moth and it was huge. It was like the size of my face, but it was so pretty because it wasn't flying at me. But like I don't do bugs. Like I can't and I grew up in the woods, but I can't do bugs. So fang scorpion is just like really not a descriptor that I'm a fan of. And this does have I guess a de-evolution. Gligar evolves into Gliscor. Its Pokedex entry is, its flight is soundless. It uses its lengthy tail to carry off its prey, dot, dot, dot. Then its elongated fangs do the rest. So it kills you. But they can't say that because children's game. So they just put this crazy, scary dot, 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 and then its elongated fangs do the rest. Like, you know what that means, but they can't say it because it's too dark to write down. If it's too dark to write down in its original terms, don't write it. That's my personal thought, but, here we are. The next Pokemon is a Generation 5 Pokemon. It's number 563 in the Pokedex, and it is, I always mess up saying this, Cofagrigus. It's a ghost Pokemon. It's a coffin type, and Yamask evolves into Cofagrigus. And Cofagrigus is just a giant sarcophagus with, like, eyes and then, like, these black, like, spooky ghost hands, like, coming out of the middle of it. Oh my god, I never described Gliscor. It's a fang scorpion. It's like if a bat head was on a scorpion with wings. Anyway, moving on. So Cofagrigus, it is said that they swallow those who get too close and turn them into mummies. They like to eat gold nuggets. I have a couple things about this entry that really get me. Number one, it talks about swallowing people and literally turning them to the undead. And then just tossed in at the end, it goes, likes to eat gold nuggets. Like as though that is going to make it less terrifying that it literally swallows people and kills them and then brings them back to life. I feel like that should be the center point of that. That should be the center point of that entry, not that it likes to eat gold nuggets. Like, I don't care. That doesn't concern me. What concerns me is that it's gonna eat me, right? So our next Pokemon is another Generation 5. It is Gothitelle. It is number 576, a psychic Pokemon. So this is the first Pokemon I think that we've encountered besides Gliscor that isn't ghost. A lot of these are ghost or dark types, which I think is really interesting, but some of them aren't. And the implications that go with the ones that aren't ghost are also really interesting because sometimes they're just as scary. It's just not on the same level of like, it haunts you. So this is one of those cases. Its category is just astral body. And Gothitelle is basically just like a girl in a dress. It's just kind of like a black dress with some white bows on it. And she looks really moody. It's pretty much, it's just a girl, pretty much. It looks like a people. And its de-evolved forms are Gothita and then Gothorita. So it goes from Gothita to Gothorita to Gothitelle. They're all just like cute little girl kind of Pokemon that are in like black dresses and stuff. This entry freaks me out a lot, and we'll talk about it in a second, but it says they can predict the future from the placement and movement of the stars. Whoa. They can see trainers' lifespans. So this Pokemon knows how long you're gonna live. That's horrifying. But then there are so many questions that go along with this. So like, if it knows your lifespan, does it know how you're gonna die or just when? And if it knows both of these things, is it gonna try to prevent it if you make it care for you? Like, can this Pokemon keep you alive forever? Or like, is it just gonna let you die? Is it just like, well, sucks to suck, have fun, like, see you in Pokemon hell, or like, I don't know, Pokemon heaven, and I don't know where you're gonna end up. I don't know what you did to those Pokemon, but like, it seems like a strange implication for a Pokemon to have. And it says specifically trainers' lifespans. It's not like it knows anyone's lifespan, just trainers. So if you're a regular human, it doesn't know when you're going to die. And if you're a Pokemon, it doesn't know when you're going to die. But if you're a trainer, it knows for sure. It knows exactly when you're going to die. Like, that just worries me a little bit. All right, moving on. Our next Pokemon, I think, is really adorable. It's called Frillish. It is a Generation 5 Pokemon. It is number 592. It is a water ghost type, and its category is floating. It's kind of like a jellyfish, but if the head of the jellyfish was a blue onion, and then the rest of the body is like silky, sort of scarfy, less tentacly, if that makes sense. Again, I'm really such a star at describing these Pokemon, so if you're really curious about what they look like, I would suggest Googling them. And Frillish evolves into Jellicent, which is just a big jellyfish. So this one, this entry is, if its veil-like arms stun and wrap a foe, that foe will be dragged miles below the surface, never to return. I don't think I need to talk about that one really too far. It literally drowns you. So like if you're just out like having a grand old time with your Pikachu and you're trying to catch this Frillish, like it's gonna drown you. I just think that that's so aggressive for a Pokemon. So the next Pokemon, this is a 3-parter. This is a 3-step evolution, and all 3 of the steps I think are horrifying. I think they're all terrifying and dark. So we're going to talk about them one by one, but just know that the first one I talk about is its first form, then it evolves, and then it evolves again, and all 3 of these are just terrifying. So this is a special one. So our first one that we're going to talk about is a Gen 5 Pokemon called Litwick. It is number 607. It is a ghost fire type, and its category is Candle. So Litwick is just a cute... Again, I would have a plush of this in my room, for sure. Like, I'm thinking of getting one. Litwick is just this adorable little candle with, like, a ghosty blue flame. Like, he's really cute. He's got kind of, like, fringe, so you can only see, like, one eye. He's got, like, a side bang moment of his candle wax. He's super adorable. For sure would get, like... he'd be cute as, like, a tattoo, for sure. His entry is... Litwick shines a light that absorbs the life energy of people and Pokemon, which becomes the fuel that it burns. So it shines a light that takes your life essence, sort of like Dark Crystal, and then uses that to fuel itself to live. So it eats your life away. I think that's terrifying, especially because it's so cute. You wouldn't expect it to do that. But how minimal is this like pulling of life force? Like, is it really aggressive? Is it just kind of aggressive? Like, if I was to encounter a Litwick in the wild, how fast would it take it to suck my life force out? Or would I have some time to like chill? Is it like years or is it like minutes? I feel like that's a big gap that we need to talk about, right? The next one, so Litwick evolves into Lampent, which is another Generation 5 Pokemon. It's number 608 in the Pokédex. It is also a ghost fire, but its category is lamp. So instead of being a cute little candle, it turns into almost like a lamp, like when you go camping, like those big like moth mosquito lamps that you see. It kind of looks like that, but if the top of it was a samurai hat. Again, my descriptors are just solid as hell. But he also has like cute little yellow eyes and like a little blue flame in the middle. His entry says, the spirits it absorbs fuel its baleful fire. It hangs around hospitals waiting for people to pass on. So this Pokemon loiters around hospitals waiting for people to die so that it can eat its life essence to fuel itself. Do I even have to talk about why that's not kosher? I feel like that's a pretty obvious one to just straight up say, y'all, you need to go to therapy. That ain't right. This is a children's game. That just is not correct. That is something that should just not be in here. That is so dark. It sits around hospitals and waits for people to die. Holy crap. This is a children's game. I remember playing this stuff when I was like 5. Lord. So Lampent evolves into Chandelure, and believe it or not, it gets a little bit worse. Chandelure is just a giant, creepy-looking chandelier with like some blue flames and some yellow eyes. It's a Generation 5 Pokemon. It is number 609 in the Pokédex. It is also a Ghost Fire type, but its category, instead of being candle or lamp, like to describe it, it's just luring, which I thought was strange because like you would think it would go candle, lamp, chandelier, but no, you'd be wrong. It goes candle, lamp, luring, because that makes sense. Its entry is: the spirits burned up in its ominous flame lose their way and wander this world forever. So Lampent waits at hospitals for people to die and then uses the flame to fuel its body. Litwick sucks your life force, but Chandelure burns your spirit in its flame, and then you are just wandering the world forever. You're literally in purgatory forever because a chandelier-looking Pokemon swallowed your spirit. That ain't right. That's just not right. The next one is along the same lines of something that I just think is like really not kosher to have in a children's game, but he is so cute. He's one of my all-time favorite Pokemon. I think he's just so adorable and so cute. His name is Phantom. He's a Generation 6 Pokemon. He's number 708 in the Pokédex. He is a Ghost Grass type, and his category is Stump. He evolves into Trevenant, and his entry is: according to old tales, these Pokemon are stumps possessed by the spirits of children who died while lost in the forest. That's a lot to unpack. So number 1, in this universe, most Pokemon that are ghosts are from children. Like, apparently it's from children dying, which I just like. What is the makeup of the Pokemon universe of like ratio of like children to adults? Like, it has to be so low. Like, every family has to have so many kids because they're like turtles, and like only one of them is gonna survive based on all the Pokemon that just murder children, right? Like, it has to be that way. I can't imagine any other way. But he's so unassuming. Phantom is just like this little like black and gray ghosty. He's like a stump, but the stump has like little horns on it, like a little demon. And he's just got these big adorable eyes and a face that's like, whoa. He's so cute. But he's literally just a kid that died while lost. So like Bear Grylls could not help that child. That child was full naked and afraid and died, and now it's a stump. It's so scary. But I'm still probably gonna get a Phantom to put on my wall because I think he's really cute. Our next Pokemon is also Generation 6. It's a little less dark. His name is Gourgeist. It is number 711, heyo, on the Pokédex. It is another Ghost Grass type, and his category is Pumpkin. He evolves from Pumpkaboo. So Pumpkaboo turns into Gourgeist. The entry is: it enwraps its prey in its hair-like arms. It sings joyfully as it observes the suffering of its prey. Now, another point I have to bring up is that a lot of Pokédex entries talk about prey. And like, look, I get it. We're treating the Pokemon as in the universe as though they're like animals. So like when you're in school and you're learning about animals, we talk about how like the cheetah's prey is the antelope on the plains of the Serengeti. You know, like we kind of get that. But for some reason, like, because it's a children's game, I thought that they would stray away from talking about prey. Like, prey is a dark word. You know, like, prey and predator are really aggressive terms, and I figured that in a more stylized, childlike world, that was going to be something that was strayed away from in order to kind of remove ourselves from the current world. But instead, they just drove right into it. And a lot of Pokédex entries, especially once you get past like generation 3 and 4 are about how they hunt, which like thinking about Pokemon hunting other Pokemon is like really horrifying. Gorgeist, also, just as a side note, is just like a big squash with a jack-o'-lantern cut into the bottom. So like it's just a big squash that's like singing at you and then like laughing at your suffering. I think it's the word suffering that really got me in this one. Because it says that it sings joyfully as it observes the suffering of its prey. Like, this Gorgeist is a serial killer. It's a full Gacy, full Bundy, just laughing at your pain. The next one is a Gen 7 Pokemon. Its name is Shiinotic. It is number 756. It is a grass fairy type. So I don't remember which generation fairy type came into. But now there are fairy type Pokemon. And a lot of fairy type Pokemon are really adorable and cute. This is not one of those. He's honestly horrifying. His type is just illuminating, but he's just a big mushroom. He's a big, like, the color scheme is very, like, if I said fairy and you saw the color scheme, you'd be like, yeah, okay. It's like this light green, pink, purple, white, but its eyes are so lifeless. It's just this smiling face, and then, like, the mushroom part is, like, the top of it, but it has, like, no expression in its face at all. It looks dead behind the eyes. And its category is just illuminating. But, like, it's just a big mushroom. That doesn't make sense to me. Morlul evolves into Shiinotic. This entry says, forests where Shiinotic live are treacherous to enter at night. People confused by its strange lights can never find their way home again. So again, this is another Pokemon where, like, you look at it and you're like, oh, that might be one that'd be cool to have in my party. And then, bam, you are just staring into its dead lights, full Pennywise from It. Just you're staring into the dead lights, you lose your way, you never find your way home, you die. You're one of the children that died and became a phantom. It has to be a symbiotic relationship between the two. Because one creates the other, I feel, personally in my brain. I think that works out. Oh, the next one is a very popular Pokemon. A lot of people really like this design. I've seen a lot of fan art of this Pokemon. People really like him, and they love to talk about what he might look like. I'll explain. It is a Generation 7 Pokemon called Mimikyu. It is number 778. It is a ghost fairy type, and his category is disguise. So basically, it's like a really crudely drawn Pikachu, but like as a sheet. And then there are two little eye holes in the body. So you can kind of see like the movement in the game when you see a Mimikyu a lot of the time is like the head is kind of like limp and lifeless because there's nothing in there. And he's really adorable until he's a very lonely Pokemon. It conceals its terrifying appearance beneath an old rag so it can get closer to people and other Pokemon. There was another entry that talks about how the first person that saw what a Mimikyu actually looked like died from fear. So that's another thing. It's kind of like, it's the Phantom of the Opera of Pokemon. So it kind of hides its face forever because it's scared that people won't like it. It's not like super duper dark. It's more just like sad. Like he's just a really sad dude that's like in a rag trying to hide his ugly face so that he can make friends. I think that's so sad. The next one, this is a good one. This is a really dark one. He's another Generation 7 Pokemon, number 770 in the Pokédex. His name is Palisand. It's just a sandcastle. There's really nothing special about it. It's just a sandcastle. It is a ghost ground type, and its category is sandcastle, very on par with what it looks like. Sandygast evolves into Palisand. And this entry is really disturbing, so welcome. It says, buried beneath the castle are masses of dried up bones from those whose vitality it has drained. So this Palisand keeps the trophies of the bones of people that it murdered. So this is a sandcastle that murders people and then keeps the bones underneath itself for vitality. It's like a satanic worshiper as a Pokemon. as a sandcastle. I don't think I need to talk about that one anymore. I think we know that that ain't right, sis. That's not the T. That ain't it. The next Pokemon, we're stepping way far back, is a Generation 1 Pokemon. This is Golbat. It's number 042 in the Pokédex. We're so far now that there has to be a 0 in the front. It is a poison flying type, and its category is Bat. It evolves from Zubat, and then it evolves into Crobat. So it's kind of the middle child of the situation. And Golbat's just a big, derpy-looking blue and purple bat. He's got these big wings, no arms, just like little banana-looking feet. And then, like, his whole body is a mouth with, like, 4 little fangs. He's pretty cute. He's, like, I wouldn't say he's, like, adorable, but, like, he's a pretty cute design. I think he's a pretty basic design. And his entry is, Golbat loves to drink the blood of living things. It is particularly active in the pitch black of night. This Pokemon flits around in the night skies seeking fresh blood. So it's a Dracula. If Dracula was a Pokemon, it would be Golbat. And, like, it's so unassuming because he looks so derpy and stupid, but he sucks blood. And they actively mention that he drinks the blood of living things. Like, that's the first line. Golbat loves to drink the blood of living things. I don't want that on my team. That doesn't seem like that's a good idea, because what if he doesn't like you? You're dead. If that Golbat doesn't like you, you're dead. And then Palisand is going to use your bones. It's just not good. The next one, I think the rest of the Pokemon on this list are either Generation 1 or Generation 2. So we started sort of in the middle-ish and then kind of worked our way forward, and now we're starting from the beginning. This is my favorite Pokemon of all time. Hands down, no questions asked. Every single game, I just make a team of this Pokemon and all of its evolutions, and I know you know who I'm talking about now. It is a Generation 1 Pokemon. It's Eevee. It's number 133 in the Pokédex. It is a normal type. Its category is just evolution. It evolves into Vaporeon, Jolteon, Flareon, Glaceon, Leafeon, Umbreon, Espeon, and Sylveon. Vaporeon is water type, Jolteon's electric, Flareon is fire, Glaceon is ice, Leafeon is grass, Umbreon is dark, Espeon is psychic, and Sylveon is fairy. So there are very few types that this evolutionary state has not reached yet, but I love seeing that fan art of people making different Eevee evolutions. It's one of my favorite things to just look up whenever I want. But Eevee is my favorite Pokemon of all time forever. I think Eevee is absolutely adorable, and I will always make a team of Eeveelutions. Like, every single time I play Pokemon, I try to beat whatever the final boss is with just a bunch of Eevees. I used to just I originally didn't like all the Eeveelutions, and I would just give Eevee, I'd make a team of 6 Eevees, and I would give them all Everstones and just pray that they all did what they needed to do. And I'd always lose, but I was very happy with it. So it doesn't seem like it would be, Eevee's just like a cute little, like, foxy, very, like, Japanese art style, like, fox with the big eyes and the huge ears, the long tail. It's fluffy. It looks like the kind of thing that you would cuddle with on a nightly basis. It kind of looks like if a Pomeranian and a fox had a baby. It's really cute. And its entry, I'll read it and then we'll talk about why I think it's scary, but initially you're not quite disturbed by it. It says, Eevee has an unstable genetic makeup that suddenly mutates due to the environment in which it lives. Radiation from various stones causes this Pokemon to evolve. So, like, right away, there's no real huge issues with this. Like, oh, cool. It's just like, if it's cold, it turns into a Glaceon. But no. Its genetic makeup is unstable. So, like, you could put this Eevee in a room with, like, knives, and maybe it would just turn into, like, a giant knife Pokemon. Like, there's so many implications to that you could genetically mutate this Eevee to become something that's, like, either a biological weapon or a physical weapon. Like, there are so many implications to Eevee that I feel like people are really sleeping on, and they don't realize, like, what they could be doing with Eevee to make it, like, this killer destructive Pokemon. So if anybody that works with anybody that that makes Pokemon games. I just gave you a new idea for the next Pokemon game. Hit me up. Let me know. We can do a little collab. I'll tell you all about it. I'll give you the rights. It's a pretty great idea, I think. Just an Eevee that like bombs places, like nuclear warfare, but with Eevee. Our next Pokemon is also, it doesn't immediately seem scary, but it will when I talk about it. It's a Ditto. It is a Generation 1 Pokemon. It's number 132. It's a normal type, and its category is Transform. It does not evolve into anything. Ditto rearranges its cell structure to transform itself into other shapes. However, if it tries to transform itself into something by relying on its memory, this Pokemon manages to get details wrong. Meaning, Ditto's just like, in its original form, Ditto is just like a big purple or pink blob. Literally looks like someone was like, we need to make another Pokemon. We're running out of time. We have a deadline. Shit. Okay, purple blob with some dot eyes and a mouth. Great. He's also really cute. But when you look at how Ditto rearranges its entire body to become other Pokemon, both bigger and smaller than itself, because Ditto isn't that big, but Ditto can be a Charizard. Ditto can be Rayquaza, but it remembers everything. It has like a really good memory. But if it tries to transform into something that way, like it could mess something up. So like, what if it's trying to be Rayquaza, but it's like not the same size? Or like, what if it's trying to be Charizard, but instead of fire, it water? Like that, that's just terrifying to me that it could masquerade itself as a Pokemon and you could catch it and then be like, oh shit, I just got a blob instead. You know, it just seems wrong. Doesn't seem natural. The next Pokemon is also Generation 1. It's a Haunter, which is just a big scary purple ghost that's mostly a mouth, and then it has like Rayman hands but claws. So like, you know how Rayman doesn't really have any limbs, he's just got like hands and feet. Same with Haunter. It's just like two claws that like kind of come out of its body, but there's no like limb attachments. Haunter is number 093 in the Pokédex. It is a ghost poison type. His category is Gas. Ghastly evolves into Haunter, which evolves into Gengar. So he's, again, another middle child. Haunter is a dangerous Pokemon. If one beckons you while floating in the darkness, you must never approach it. This Pokemon will try to lick you with its tongue and steal your life away. Again, I really don't think that this is one that I need to touch on too much, but that is not kosher for a children's game. Like, it's just not. That is so dark and so terrifying. It literally says, Haunter is a dangerous Pokemon. Like, don't go near it. And then people try to catch it. Like, absolutely not. That Pokemon's going to kill you for sure. The next one is really sad. It's a Generation 1 Pokemon named Cubone. It's number 104. It's a ground type. And his category is Lonely. Like, that just makes you feel for this poor dude. It evolves into Marowak. And Cubone pines for the mother it will never see again. Seeing a likeness of its mother in the full moon, it cries. The stains on the skull the Pokemon wears are made by the tears it sheds. There's also another Pokédex entry that talks about how the skull... Because Cubone is like if a dinosaur was wearing a dinosaur skull on its head, and then he's like holding a bone as a weapon. But there's another Pokédex entry that talks about how the skull on his head is his mother's head. So also really take that information in. Not only is he sad that he'll never see his mother again, he's wearing her carcass on his head. Thank you, Pokemon, I guess. Our next one is Mewtwo. It's another Generation 1 Pokemon. He's number 150. He is a psychic Pokemon. His category is genetic, and Mew actually evolves into Mewtwo. Go figure. Mewtwo is a Pokemon that was created by genetic manipulation. However, even though the scientific power of humans created this Pokemon's body, they failed to endow Mewtwo with a compassionate heart. There is literally a Pokemon movie about the fact that Mewtwo just doesn't understand people, and he's like gonna wreak havoc. Like, the fact that they created this genetically mutated Pokemon that is so powerful and so scary and could do so much, and he just like doesn't understand that people feel things. That's horrifying. Mewtwo's a psychopath. That's what they just said. Mewtwo is a psychopath that they created in Pokemon form. He looks a lot like Frieza for my Dragon Ball Z fans out there. It's like if Frieza was a Pokemon, it would be Mewtwo, for sure. Also, Mewtwo can talk. Mewtwo doesn't like say, Mewtwo. Like, Mewtwo just speaks. He can speak like human language. It's horrifying. We are down to our last Pokemon, everybody. Our last Pokemon is another one of my favorites. Her name is Misdreavus. She is a Generation 2 Pokemon. She's number 200 in the Pokédex. She's a ghost type, and her category is Screech. She evolves into Mismagus. So Misdreavus is just like, the head of it is just like this really pretty woman with like this lovely hair. It's like a soft green color with like some purple frosted tips. And then she's got this big red pearl necklace on. And then just like a little ghosty body. Kind of like Shuppet, how it's just kind of like if a napkin was pulled up. It kind of looks like that. Her entry is, Misdreavus frightens people with a creepy, sobbing cry. The Pokemon apparently uses its red spheres to absorb the fearful energies of foes and turn them into nutrition. So she makes you scream and cry and then eats it. She's the Pokemon equivalent of Monsters Inc. I know I'm like comparing a lot of the Pokemon to like other references, but that's just kind of how my brain works. Is I try to. This is why I should write fan fiction, because like these are all the fan fictions that we really want in the world. Let me know if you want me to do any Pokemon fan fiction crossovers, because apparently that's something I'm really good at creating. But Misdreavus just like makes you cry and then like eats it. That's so scary. By crying, like she just cries and screams, and then you cry and scream, and then she eats it, and she's like, "Thanks, bro." It's terrifying. That's not great. So that's all the Pokemon we have right now. There are so many more that I missed, because I had a huge list of them, and I said I can't talk about all these at once. There's no way I'm going to be able to get through them. So there are a ton that I missed that have some rather disturbing entries in them. Also, feel free to just go read all the Pokédex entries, because even if they're not dark, some of them are really sad and really funny. The people that are creating these Pokemon have some pretty creative minds. And a lot of people just look at the design and they're like, oh, cool, it's a ghost type and it looks like that. Great. But people don't realize that like there's lore and there's like a whole universe that's canonical. And every Pokédex entry is so creative, and I feel like it's just a little joke. Everyone is just like a little joke that they tossed in there. Like, are you going to catch that, or do you not read them? And I always read them. Now that, like, especially now that I've read some of them and I'm like, that is so disturbing. I'm going to be reading plenty more of them, because I'd love to do a second episode of this. Let me know if you guys really liked this episode. Let me know if you guys liked which Pokemons are your favorite, what types are your favorite. Eevee is my favorite, hands down. Please let me know if she is also your favorite. I also always refer to Eevee as she. I will only take female Eevees. I don't really want the male ones unless it's a Jolteon. I know that sounds really suspect, but like I only get female Eevees. It's not a choice. It just like happens to me in every time I play. But again, let me guys know if you want to see this episode again. I'm clearly very passionate about Pokemon, so I have a bunch more stuff like this coming. So the way, as you guys can kind of see, last week was like a true crime episode. This week I wanted to do something a little bit more lighthearted. So I'm going to try to work sort of like at least every couple episodes, do something more lighthearted so that it's not always just doom and gloom here in Whispers from Below. We've got all sorts of topics that we can talk about that are scary and dark that don't have to do with people getting murdered. I guess a lot of kids got murdered in this episode. But they didn't talk about it directly. Couldn't do that. That'd be too dark. That'd be too scary. Thank you guys so much for listening. This podcast is now on iTunes, which is super exciting. So we're now on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher. You can listen on Buzzsprout, I believe. And I also upload all of these to YouTube at Whispers from Below. That's the YouTube channel. So if you're more of a YouTube person, there's no video attached to it. It's just the logo. But again, I also upload it to YouTube. So if that's something that you want to go see or leave a comment or like it or share it that way, however you want to do that, please let any of your friends know that are interested in this or any sort of dark topics. Let them know that this podcast exists. Because the more of a following we get, the more ideas, the more communication we can get, the more cool stuff I can do for you guys. So please let me know, and thank you so much for listening. And remember, Pokemon can kill. Despite what you were told as a child and despite what you believe, Pokemon can kill.